Islam and greetings. Princeanaelbey, Divine Prince of the Divine Theocracy of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, etc. In this session, I'm going to take you all on a field trip. And any good professor, when he is teaching undergrads, need to expose them. That way, they will be better able to put what they have learned sitting at their desk into practical application. And there is no better way to do that than a field trip. They can get some practical experience out there to see what you are lecturing them about and what you are professing to them. The only way for a student to learn these days, if you've been paying attention to people's psychology, you understand better about how today's human mind works. And today, our field trip will be to Evanston, Illinois. Evanston is the town that sits just north of Chicago. Now, we have had this session on reparations and why Balack people will never get it, which is the premise of this field trip. Evanston, Illinois has announced that it is going to begin building a fund for reparations. Isn't that marvelous? Evanston is going to build a fund for reparations. Now, mind you, hasn't been determined how the money's going to be dispersed. It hasn't been determined how it's going to be structured. None of that's been determined. None of that's been determined. Now, I'm going to demonstrate the third degree to you. You are going to hear about this on a much larger scale than me and YouTube. And when you do, I want you to first observe the climate. And by climate, I mean the time of year. Go all the way back to January. Bring it up to today. And then you measure everything that has happened from January to today. Once you've developed your timeline, the observable, when you bring it up to today, is going to be as clear as crystal to you. Now, in this session, I'm going to speak on certain aspects of Evanston's plan. And from one standpoint, it's absolutely brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant from one standpoint. And from another standpoint, it is totally disastrous. However, I'm going to speak on both aspects of this. and I want you all to follow along with me. Do as I suggested just a moment ago. Check the climate. After you've checked the climate and you have added up everything that has happened since the beginning of this year, it is going to be as clear as crystal to you. It's going to be as clear as crystal. All right. From the one aspect, from a political standpoint, and considering that Evanston being just north of Chicago, and Chicago is currently a Democratic city. Excuse me. Okay? The Democrats have Chicago. So, Evanston and Chicago are neighbors. So quite naturally, Evanston is run by Democrats. From a political standpoint, this is perfect. Here it is, an election year, and since we need these votes to keep our jobs, well, let's placate the United States-made Negro. That's right. The United States-made African American. Now, what do they want? Well, they've been screaming about some money. All right. So we'll create a reparations fund. This fund that they're going to be paying Black people reparations out of is a tax that Evanston is going to impose. Now, the way I know reparations to take place, what they're for, I don't ever recall in any of my research, well, that subject is the subject. I don't ever recall the recipients of reparations having to pay for it themselves through a tax, pardon me. So Evanston is going to be the first to offer reparations to its Balack population. And I'm almost sure that it is going to be confined to Evanston, of course. And now, from a political standpoint, it's ingenious. It's absolutely ingenious. We shut the niggas up. We get their votes. And business as usual. But on the other hand, it is disastrous in this manner. It is disastrous because it will reinforce the Martin Luther King self-imposed victimization that all Black and African Americans claim that they are subject to on a regular basis. It will reinforce the victimhood status that King has given to them and they support and that they live by. It is also disastrous because there will be succeeding generations of these United States-made Negroes and African Americans. Well, Black people. The United States-made Black people. And children emulate the adults in their orbit. You operating under an inferior label and you pass that on to your children. And they will forever be a beggar people because all they will know is this. This is all they'll know. and you reinforce it in them. That's one of the most disastrous aspects of what Evanston is proposing. It will keep a people crippled and dependent. Just look what the labels have done to you. You were Negro. Negro was always known, fear of the oppressor. Then you colored. You know why everybody wasn't colored in the 1960s? Because that label didn't stick. That label didn't stick. People didn't take to it real well. So, we went back to Negro in the 1960s. And that stuck. That stuck. Because I remember the very first Negro History Week. Yeah, that sounded a little better than Colored People History Week. But that proposal is disastrous. And I remember saying to you all in a prior video about how you are going to make yourself disappear. You're going to make yourselves disappear. Embracing such a tactic to continue to invade and control your mind. And do you know how they do it, class? I have already explained that to you earlier. Because Black people are consumers, and all they want is free money to continue to consume. That's what they know about Black people. This satisfies their Martin Luther King foolishness, lust for that phrase, you owe me because I'm Black. It satisfies that. And it also satisfies their wanton lust for anything new, bright, and shiny. So they got the Black people pegged pretty good. They got the Black people pegged pretty good. Now, class, remember what I told you about at the beginning of this session. You pay attention to everything that has happened from January to the day that Evanston implements this rather ambitious scheme of theirs. One more thing. There will probably be a part 2 to this, but I'm going to have to control myself just a little bit. And apologies if I messed up through any of this session. I'm trying to keep from laughing. It's all I can do to stay off the floor, really. And well, no, I don't think there will be a 2. I'm just going to finish it out. And so, as a direct result, I mean, pay attention. Pay attention to what and how Evanston executes this thing. And what you're going to get are the results of Evanston's efforts. You pay attention to that. Now that's simply observable behavior. This is what you can see. This is what you're looking at. But understand this. Sometimes what you're looking at ain't what you're seeing. And that is when your 3rd degree comes into play. Because you need to know. And what is not observable to you, the answer must still be found. And that is when your 3rd degree becomes invaluable to you. So pay attention to this. Pay attention to all of this. I mean, do 360 degrees of observation. Bring memory to your aid from January to the time Evanston executes this thing. Pay attention to that. Watch what you see. Now, as a result of this, I'm sure that there are some Balack groups who consider this a victory of some sorts. And one of those nah, 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 I told you moments to all the people who have been telling Black people they ain't gonna get no reparations. This will be a nah, 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 nah moment for them. They will feel as if they have accomplished something. And as I've cautioned you before, activity does not equal progress. Because personally and logically, I do not see where that is reparations. As a matter of fact, what I see is something out of the operations manual for that corporation that was formed in 1932, known as the Internal Revenue Service. You give them some of your money while you're working. Sometime during the spring, they'll give you some of your money back. I just don't see where the difference is. You're going to tax them to pay them. And you all will have to pardon me. You're going to tax them to pay them what they've been screaming about. Question is, how many of them are actually going to know that they're the ones paying for their reparations? Excuse me. Now, there are Black groups who will consider this a victory. They'll consider this a victory. Now, as is customary with the Asiatic, check that. The Black person will feign contentment with what he's been given. Because, you know, being Black, he's always had his hand out. So he'll feign contentment with what he's been given. And then something newer, brighter, and shinier is going to come along. And that which he fought for and struggled for so long, now it becomes nothing. On to the next thing. So, these groups who may claim some sort of victory as a result of this, I would like to say to them, please take a moment to think. Take a moment to think. How is that a victory for you? And they're going in your pockets to get it. What have you won? You see, that is that Martin Luther King thinking. He thinks they won because he got some people's head peeled at a Woolworths counter. He got people's head peeled sitting at a Woolworths counter. That was totally unnecessary. And it never had to happen. It never had to. But at any rate, it is that kind of mentality that the United States made black person. All right, I heard somebody ask, why do I keep saying United States made black person? It's because of this. The United States of America Corporation, it was at one time an industrial and agricultural corporation, meaning it fed the world at one time. And this was long before it became Archer Daniel Midland's slogan. America fed the world. And it was industrial and agricultural. And in the late 70s, going into the early 80s, well, she had a plant and farm shut down, didn't tell nobody. And when she opened the doors again, under the same company name, well, she then became a service and information-oriented corporation. That is why she is trying to build herself up into a world-class service and information-oriented corporation. All right, so that's why. And well, actually, the reason why I keep calling them United States made black people is because while the United States of America no longer manufactures or grows anything as a corporation like they once did, it does still manufacture one thing, and that is the United States made black person. It does still manufacture those. Now, back at the beginning, over at the cannery, because they come in a can. Black people come in a can. In the early days, they were Negroes. Basically, they became colored people. The label changed, not the packaging. And what was inside was the same thing in the Negro. Well, then they started manufacturing black people after colored people. Well, this was the new improved colored. The ingredients were changed. Something was added to the black man. Something was added to the black person. So, it might have been viewed as an improvement on, the last label's product. All right. So now you got African American, new label, and the African American, if I had a chart, this is what it would look like. From Negro to colored, and then African American. Because along with that dip on the chart went the IQ and intelligence potential of the black person. It too has declined as they became African Americans, because now all he knows is new, bright, and shiny. Anytime you have a 40-year-old Asiatic man sitting in front of a TV with game controllers in his hand, the work is being done, and they are being successful. You're 40 years old. Why is your mind not on those things that will help your race? Why do you not have conversations with other men of your phylum on what you can do to help uplift your race? Sitting there with them game controllers in your hand. Yeah, those are just feel-good moments. Because you are expected to feel good as you watch the decline and utter disappearance of your race. Yeah, you'll be the band on the Titanic. A 40-year-old man sitting up with game control. Men do not play children's games, for starters. Men do not play children's games. Because while you're playing games, killing zombies or whatever the hell you do on them damn video games, a grown-ass man. And for those of you who say, yeah, I like my Halo, fuck you. Fuck you. Because that's all you're saying to your successors and all of the others who will come along who are of the same race as you. What you're telling them is fuck you. You like putting $300 and $400 in the hands of billion-dollar corporations than you would spend 10 minutes on trying to map out your future so that it intersects with theirs down the road. That's what you'd rather be doing, huh? And you call yourself a man? I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. A man would never elect to watch, let alone assist in the disappearance of his race through his fascination of what's bright, new, and shiny, and game controllers. Those things are not the business of men. Those are not the business of men. Men work hard to stabilize and to elongate the race throughout the centuries, throughout the ages. That is what men do. They don't sit at home solitarily and do this in front of a goddamn TV screen. That's what fucking little boys do. Little boys say, fuck you. I'm only concerned with me. That's what little boys do. That is not the province of men. I know you ain't gonna give them up. I know that. I know you're not gonna give them up. Because you can't tear yourself away. You can't tear yourself away from bullshit to get serious about nothing. About nothing. That shit's important to you. Well, you continue to sit there with them fucking controllers in your hands and watch your race disappear. Watch your race disappear. Because that is exactly what you are doing. A 40-fucking-year-old man with a goddamn game in his face. That is not the province of men. Men are thinkers. Men cogitate on problems that face the race. Men focus on creating solutions, partial solutions, or anything that will continue the race. These are the things that men think. When men come together, they could give a shit about who you slept with the night before. That is not the province of men. That is the way boys talk. Men have important things to discuss, and who you bedded the night before ain't among them. How fucked up you got, yeah. Or how crazy you were. No. These are not the discussions of men. Watch Evanston. Keep an eye on Evanston, because it's going to tell you a lot. It's going to tell you a lot. And I simply want you all to begin understanding the world you live in for what it is, not for what you've been told and shown it is. You see, there is nothing like empirical data. Nothing like it. And that is why I recommend field trips for all undergrads who have a serious professor who is more interested in their education than anything else. It is the way it should be, because your students are your barometer. That's the barometer by which you're measured. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, etc. You want to communicate with me, my email is in the box down there, and I'll probably be back with another video. Till then, I bid you peace.